Hi, Rube. My name's Daphne. I'm one of the essay correctors at IELTSpodcast.com. Thanks for sending in your essay for some feedback. Great to have you here. Let's have a look at this. So some people who've been in prison become good citizens later. Not all of them, remember, some of them. And it's often argued these are the best to talk to teenagers about the dangers of committing a crime. To what extent do you agree or disagree? So it's an opinion essay. Now, on the course, we talk to you about planning. So the planning is really important. So very quickly, do a little plan like this. Are these the best people? The ones that have been in prison and become good? Or who else could? So these are your two main paragraphs. Are they the best people? Who else could talk to teenagers? Maybe policemen, maybe teachers. So some citizens who have, let's just move this up, who have already been, so change your tense there, have already been, present perfect, to prison as they committed a crime, but have now become, present perfect as well, a respectful, you can't have a respectful people, because people is plural, respectful people, are the best citizens for teenagers to talk about harmfulness of crime. Now, you've kind of paraphrased, but not quite got the whole meaning there. Paraphrasing is okay, but you need to have the whole meaning. So some people who have been to prison or as they committed a crime, but have now become a respectful crime, I was going to say might be. We're not saying they are. We're saying they might be the best speakers for teenagers to talk about harmfulness of crime. In some point. How do you mean in some point? Do you mean I partially agree maybe? Or at some point? I partially agree with this statement. Because you need to give me a bit more here. Otherwise your introduction doesn't have enough depth in it. Give me a little bit more. Why do you agree? Okay, so I want a bit more into that introduction, and be careful on your tenses when you're paraphrasing. Few studies show. Now, few is not very many. Be very careful of this word. It is a very difficult word in English. Few and a few, they're difficult to use. So, you could have numerous studies have shown, you definitely want present perfect again there, so watch out on your grammar tenses. Increasing juvenile crime ratio is higher nowadays. The other world is more materialistic than before. The other world? Which other world? Do you mean today's world, maybe? It's more materialistic than before, which drags. I think you want drags, but that's too informal. Kids is also too informal. Remember, we want academic style, which leads to some teenagers being tempted towards crime. So keep your language level very high. In society, criminals are always judged without knowing ratio of their crime. How do you mean that? What do you mean ratio of their crime? So you could say always judged in proportion to, or are not always judged in proportion to. Teenagers who've misled their past sometimes ended in detention centres where they were misguided for hardship for normal life. So the majority, you'd have to say, of kids never return from criminal life. Okay, from criminal life. So you mean once they're in prison, it's hard for them to improve. Very good point. So there's some issues here just in me being able to understand everything. This is really to do with you making sure you know exactly how to write these essays. On the course that Ben does, we give you videos how to write the IELTS essay. 12 sentences, how to do it. Perfect. Lots and lots of practice, lots and lots of feedback to really help you get your structure and your organisation sorted. So if teenagers have the right to make information about crime and prison, they might be more aware about their responsibilities towards society, family and themselves. That's a great sentence. Very nice. Good work. Some respectful citizens may become good counsellors. whose past was affected by crime. Are there some, it's not the respectful citizens, it's the criminals. So be careful here on the understanding of the question. Some former inmates, people who've been in prison, may become good counsellors. And I would use the word advisors instead, whose past was affected by crime, but now could be seen as a valuable source of information for youngsters. Something like that. Okay, so yes, you're right about real stories being the best sellers, but you've got to finish making this point first. These people could also share their sides about two sides of life and how peaceful and safe they are while returning to, So I think you could say this in a slightly neater way. Really, this is your point. They could be a valuable source of information. Yeah, so I'd say good advisors there. Watch out here, though. If you look at what we're doing here, we want 4 paragraphs. This paragraph is very long, and this paragraph is quite short in comparison. So we want to balance these paragraphs and have a couple more lines for the conclusion, at least another line for the conclusion. This is to do with the layout. Ben also talks to you about how to do this on the course. However, there are some risks associated with this practice, as these good people are not heroes, but sharing their bad experience, and children must have to understand these concepts. Excellent. Also, most of the time, people who had a bad... okay, I wouldn't use that, because I'm not sure about the relevance of all of that. But this is good. Must have to understand these concepts. Okay, it has been suggested that there may be risks and dangers associated with glamorizing such prison experiences. That's the sort of thing you want to be started off. And then you could bring in the Hollywood, but we're not really talking about Hollywood actors. We're really talking about people who've been in prison. So I wouldn't use that as an example. But you need to develop. You're on the right idea here, but you need to develop that. And then you could say, as an alternative, teachers and even police could be could be suitable people to talk to the teenagers. Okay, so you need to build up that paragraph a bit more. And conclusion, previous criminals who are good students might be the right people. Yeah. But their intention must be awareness. Very good. I like that. That's a very thoughtful conclusion there. So you've got lots of good stuff going on in here. Well done. I think what you need is a little bit of guidance on how to structure this essay, a little bit more practice on some of the grammar issues, and getting the clarity, so the coherence, as good as you can. Have a look at the course, have a look at the videos that Ben does, and then the course includes corrections like this and lots of feedback, which is really a great way to improve. Well done.